brilliant and accomplished Jen Guyton, and I'm really excited about where this conversation is going to take us today. Jen is an actual former National Geographic photographer and conservation scientist turned transformational coach. She spent more than a decade working across Africa as a wildlife researcher and a storyteller, earned her PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology from Princeton University, and even had infrared photography of spotted hyenas, which is my favorite animal, featured on the cover of National Geographic in 2024. But actually, from the outside, it sounds like one of the massive I've made it moments, but actually reaching that point made Jen realize something really important. Achieving everything that she thought she wanted doesn't necessarily mean that she reached her ultimate happiness and belonging. And she didn't finally feel like she was there yet. That realization eventually took her life in a completely different direction. Today, Jen works with ambitious high achievers to help them step away from that constant cycle of chasing the next achievement and start creating lives that actually feel really meaningful, authentic, and like their own. And I think there's so much within that that's going to resonate with so much of you, and so much to unpack. So, Jen, honestly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ellie. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I always ask every guest, and it's actually a lot of them have said to me lately, Ellie, that's not a very good question. But I'm going to ask it anyway, and you can interpret it however you want. Who is Jen Guyton?
Mm,
For anyone that doesn't know.
yeah. It is a hard question to answer because I feel like reinventing myself all the time. And I've shed so many skins and changed direction so many times throughout my life that it's hard to, pin down who I am. But in brief, my story is I was born in Germany, grew up in California, studied conservation at school, but I was also really passionate about photography. Ended up in a PhD program and then switched to doing wildlife photography full time. And my lifelong dream had been to get a story on the cover of National Geographic. And that happened in 2024. And when that happened, I was thrilled for about 2 weeks. And then I hit rock bottom because I realized that my happiness level kind of went right back to where it was before the cover. And I started to wonder if there was something wrong with me. I spent many days and nights in bed crying, wondering if I was ever going to be happy or if I was somehow broken. And ultimately found my way out of that after about a year and a half, 2 years, and decided that I wanted to help other people walk through that middle space where they realize that their old way of living doesn't really work anymore and they want to do things differently. But it can be hard to navigate that space. So that's why I work as a transformational coach now.
That's really interesting, especially where I feel like there's a huge correlation with maybe even neurodivergence. So I I have all of these goals, okay? And then it must be really hard to have one goal like your whole life, one main goal, and then you achieve it, and then what? Sometimes that's kind of confusing because you get that huge dopamine when you hit your goal, but then where do you go from there? And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of neurodivergent people feel that because we have like dopamine and novelty, and we're always wanting the next thing. But what happens when you get that penultimate thing that you can't kind of get better than, or that you think that there isn't better than? Then what? Is it over? Is that it? Is this what life is? So I really understand that.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was grappling with is it was like, okay, well, I thought that when I achieved this thing, I'd be happy. And really, my life hasn't changed all that much. So what now? And it took a long time for me to kind of come around to a different perspective of it, which was, you know, I achieved my goal and now I don't know what to do. and then it switched to I achieved my goal and now I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
And so it actually almost became freeing to imagine that I got to have a new dream.
Yeah. Because not
And
many people get that. They get one dream, and sometimes they don't even make that one dream throughout their whole life. So
Mhm.
so it's an amazing thing to get your dream and then be able to make a new goal.
Yeah, it really was. I did have one question for you. I heard you mention that spotted hyenas are your favorite animal. They're my favorite animal too, and
No
I
way.
would love to
I've
hear.
never ever met anyone else whose favorite animal is hyenas, and which is unreal because all my life my favorite animal's been hyenas. Um, Even since I watched the bloody Lion King, which didn't paint them in the bestest light. I feel like they're
Mhm.
the underdogs, but they
Mhm.
but they've been my favorite. And every time someone says like to me when I was a kid, what's your favorite animal? Is it a bunny rabbit? I'd be like, no, it's a hyena. And they'd be like, what, scavenger? Like, but I don't know what it is. But I never ever meet anyone that says hyenas. And that's why I thought it was, when I read it, I was like, a hyena? She was on the front with a hyena, and there was like a lot of things you've done. So I used to do photography at college. I done photography. I had an obsession with, I don't know if it's an autistic obsession or an obsession with Homo sapiens and all of that kind of things. And everything that you was interested in, I was like, yes, I have to pick this lady's brains, and also I have to ask her about David Attenborough, because as someone from the UK, he's like our adopted grandfather. Like
Mm.
everyone, like my
Mhm.
friend, she never had a grandfather for her child because her dad died when she was young. So she actually used to sit her son down in front of the telly and used to say that that's your grandfather. Sadly, I haven't seen her for a long time. She's the most amazing woman, but just I think a lot of people feel this natural affinity for David Attenborough. Do you like him?
I love him. Yeah, he's always been an idol for me. I've unfortunately never met him, but
Oh,
he's amazing. He's done so
yeah,
much good for the natural world.
yeah, it is amazing, and you've got to travel so much as well.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
why
I have.
why hyenas for you?
Mm. I became really fascinated with hyenas the first time I went to Africa when I was 19. And I remember learning about them and hearing a hyena researcher talk about how they're so misunderstood. You know, we think of them as like these cowardly scavengers, but actually, they're some of the best hunters in Africa. Something that a lot of people don't know is that they're remarkably good at hunting. And usually, when you see lions and hyenas on a kill together, it's the lions who are trying to steal the kill from the hyenas and not the other way around. So there's so much that's weird and wonderful about them. Then there's, their anatomy is very strange. I don't know how much you know about that.
A little. I've gone down many a rabbit hole about hyenas at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just but the most reason I like them is because I feel like they are so misunderstood and they get such a bad rep, and that's the main reason why I like them.
Yeah. Yeah, same. And so I took the opportunity to try and show people a different side of hyenas on in my Nat Geo story. And it was amazing to be able to spend 6 weeks working with them in Kenya and really getting to know the individual animals out there, getting to know their personalities, getting to see what amazing mothers they are and how loving they are to each other in a way that most people just don't understand.
Did you always have a natural like affinity with animals, or throughout your, was it something you wanted to deal with your whole life since you was a child?
Yeah, I've always loved animals. My parents took me hiking, took me outdoors a lot. We had a house full of animals when I was growing up. I think one time I counted, and there was one point where we had 14 animals in our house: dogs, cats, guinea pigs, birds, turtles. We had a pet possum at one point that was named Pinky.
Wow.
And so I was always surrounded by animals, and I knew that I wanted to somehow work with them in my adult life.
That's amazing. Was there a, if it wasn't, because there's working with animals and there's doing what you did. That's big. But was there an alternative route? Like, was it veterinary or something like that?
Mm. I I guess I wanted to be a vet when I was a little kid. That was the first dream, I think, was to be a vet. And then I realized that vets have to put animals down, and I didn't want to do that. So the next dream was National Geographic. Just growing up surrounded by the magazines and flipping through the pages and seeing all the pictures of the animals, I knew that was what I wanted to do.
So did your parents used to get the National Geographic? Like, no way.
Yeah, every month.
Were,
Mm.
were they like, I have to ask, I always have to ask this, no matter how old the guest is or how young the guest is, because it comes a bit awkward if I say it wrong. Your parents still with us?
Yes.
And did they see you?
They did, yeah. Yeah.
What a weird moment. Like, you've grown up with that magazine on your table and then there you are. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. It still feels a little bit surreal to think about.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I can imagine why that would kind of fuck with your head, for a want of a better word, because where, you've got everything and then where do you go from there? It's like when they say, like, millionaires and stuff, you've achieved the pinnacle and then what do you do? So I completely understand that. Do you feel like you've met a lot of people in your new form of work that are experiencing the same thing? And is there a name for that?
Yeah, so many people, so many people. Once I started talking about my experience with all of this online, it was like dozens and dozens of former colleagues, people I've met, friends came forward and were like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you're putting this into words because I'm experiencing the exact same thing and I thought it was just me."
Yeah.
And the way that I think of it is as the achievement trap. It's like society tells us that if we just achieve more, attain more, get the marriage, get the career, get the house, then we will eventually be happy. But the reality is that that is not how it works. It's more like when you achieve those things, the bar just moves, right?
Yeah.
You eventually get used to this new way of living, and then your mind is looking for new things to achieve, new things to attain. It's seeking validation from other sources. And so it was a really long journey for me to figure out, okay, well, if achievement isn't working to make me happy, does this just mean I'm going to be unhappy forever, or is there a different way? And eventually, what I realized is that it's about finding a different type of fuel to run your ambition, to run your motivation. It doesn't mean that you have to stop achieving. It just means that instead of achieving for validation, for, achieving the things that society tells you should achieve so that people pat you on the back and say you're doing a good job, you instead are achieving from a place of curiosity, a place of alignment, a place of being excited about the thing that you're creating, even if nobody sees it, even if nobody gives you the gold star for doing it. And that's something that I work with in coaching spaces all the time, is helping people understand what's motivating the things that they're doing. And then we work toward shifting that motivation. Either sometimes it means leaving behind the career that they've built, and sometimes it means just finding a different way to relate to it.
Pivoting.
Yeah.
Do you think, is it mostly, I would think it was very, very extensive feeling with high achievers?
That it's very what?
It's a very, like, a feeling that high achievers feel extensively.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would have thought it was a predominantly high achiever thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think that high achievers are often high achievers because they've bought into this idea that achieving things will make them happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it has to do with the way they were raised. It was that when they were children, love was only offered to them when they did well, when they got good grades, right? And that's such a common pattern that I see is that
Is
people
that a
learned as
huge
children.
correlation?
People learned as children that being good, doing well in school, getting awards got them love. And that was certainly my personal pattern as well. That was, I think, where my high achievement has come from.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when you've unpacked that and explored that, I feel like when we're little, we think, or, we emulate our parents. Not everyone, I have very traditional parents. My mum was never allowed to work. My dad wanted her at home. She was an excellent housewife and, everything else. And I grew up and I wanted to recreate that. I thought that that
Mm.
was completely normal. My sisters were horrified by how awful it was and didn't want to create that. So now you're older and you can see that you've noticed this pattern because, you felt like when you was achieving things, like as a child, you were given more love. Is that
Mm.
something that you've explored with your parents at a later date or at a later stage?
I've talked to my dad a little bit about it. It's one of those things where it became more important for me to resolve it within myself than to
Yeah.
necessarily resolve it with them.
Me too. I think it's a lot of it is a thing of the time. And when you have kids, and I've got 3 adult children, you never have a manual, unfortunately, and we
Mm.
just do what we can do, and a lot of us do what our parents did, and
Mhm.
and that's a much a thing of the time, the love when you're achieving things. So I think it is the way to resolve it is sometimes within ourselves, and
Yeah.
we can give ourselves the validation and the answers. Do you mostly deal with this issue in your coaching, or is there a plethora of different things?
The way that I coach is that I don't have an agenda for what we do in any given session. So I work with whatever people bring to me. And that can range, from issues with with their career to issues with their relationship to, just why am I feeling sad today?
Yeah.
And I would say that a lot of people come to me feeling this same thing about the achievement trap because that's what I write about and that's what I talk about.
So that's why they're
And so,
attracted to you. Yeah.
mhm, yeah, but once someone is in the coaching space, we really work with whatever is there. And to be honest, that's one of the really beautiful things to me about coaching is that often all people need is a safe space to actually feel their feelings
Yeah.
because so few of us take the time to or take the space to just sit down and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? How do I actually feel about this career? Is it expanding me or is it making me feel small? And we don't take the time to ask those questions. And so when I give them that space, I give them the hour and it's their hour and they can talk about whatever they want. There's no judgment from me. I'm not trying to fix them. And suddenly they're able to actually access what they really feel and what they really think. And it's really that simple.
Do you pass judgment? Not that you judge them. Do you give your opinion, or is it them self exploration? It just gives them somewhere. So sometimes, I've realized I've been verbalizing my neurodivergence over the internet for the last couple of years, and it hit me the other day is uh, verbalization is a form of just talking it out with
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So, when they come to you, are they coming for a resolution, or are they just talking it out with themselves until they figure it?
Mm. I tend to guide the exploration of whatever's going on with them by asking questions and often bringing them back into their body.
Yeah.
So we can spend, you know, days and days or weeks and weeks in our own head arguing with ourselves. The different voices in our heads saying different things and defending ourselves. But your body already knows the answer.
Yeah.
And so often a big part of it is just bringing people back into their body. What are they feeling? Where is it? What does it feel like? When do they remember first feeling that feeling? And that can access our truth so much quicker than trying to sort it out in our head.
Is that more of a, is it kind of a mindfulness or a somatic approach, or what kind of approaches is that? Because there's so many different approaches now, that whole bringing you out of your head into your body. I think it's a really good way to process, because your body holds so much that you don't even realize until I feel like. So before I was 30, I never done any self-exploration. I was having a hard time. And then in the end of my 30s, I started to find and I would have laughed if someone said to me before, authentic self, la la la. That wasn't something I believed in. But now I've found it. I can't rave about it enough. And, all these practices that talking about your nervous system and, everything that your body holds, they all make so much sense to me. So are these kind of triggered by that?
Yeah, I think the way that I coach is definitely based in somatic practices. I also use a little bit of internal family systems and things like that. Basically, whatever the moment calls for. But the whole underlying thing is just presence with whatever is there in that moment. I'm not like during a session, I'm not, thinking about, ooh, which modality is going to fit here
It just
or
flows.
yeah, it's just presence with whatever's there. But I hear you on, the how important it is to get into your body, because I spent so much of my life totally out of touch with my body. It was like
Yeah.
I was living a few inches above my body my whole life, just managing everything and trying to anticipate everything. And I think I was terrified of feeling what was actually in my body, because it was the truth, which was that the way I was living was not working for me. And that was too scary for me to face for many, many years. So I numbed it with alcohol and caffeine and constantly working and constantly running. You mentioned how much I've traveled. I
Yeah.
think that was part of it too, was just I
It's
was
getting
running
away
from
from
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
But we can't, we unfortunately, we can't outrun ourselves. I think I tried so much for so long, and then you either have to give up, you either carry on and it is a miserable process, or you just have to come home and do the self-exploration and figure out what's missing inside. Was the coaching a natural progression? I mean, it's not natural at all from, traveling Africa extensively and National Geographic. It's a completely different genre or niche, or however you'd like to call it. What was you always an empathetic person? How did you go from one to the other?
Yeah. Great question. I think when it happened, I I guess it was about a year after I had my rock bottom moment that a friend came to me and said, "Hey, I'm teaching a course on deep coaching, and I thought you might be interested." And I was like, I feel like this is a sign from the universe. And so I did it. And it opened up so many things in me that I had forgotten were even there. I do think that I have always been an empathetic person, but my emotions scared me for most of my life. And so I dissociated from them for decades. And I've always been really interested in human psychology and understanding how people work, why people are the way they are. And and then I feel like we learn so much from nature too, just observing nature, connecting with nature. I learned so many lessons from just watching the way that plants grow or the way that animals interact with each other. And so there are all these threads that have been sort of seemingly unrelated throughout my life, and they kind of have come together with coaching in a way that I would never have expected.
Yeah, that makes sense. How did your parents feel when you pivoted? Because you obviously, it's easy saying, you had that dream, and then when it wasn't for you, it was a shock for your system, but it also must have been a shock for, people around you. Was they worried, like, you've got, did everyone say you've got everything you want, and now, what's wrong with you? Is that what people say? Because I feel people see things from the outside in a completely different perspective, and unless it's something you understand, people don't get it. My parents like, pull yourself together, it's one of them things. But was you able to explain it to them, and did they get it in the end? Can they see that you're happier?
I've been really lucky that my parents have always supported whatever I want to do. And, I don't think that everyone has that. And so I feel very grateful for it. I have never felt judged, especially by my dad. I've never felt judged for any decision that I've made, for any path that I wanted to follow. And I'm very, very grateful for that. It's just unconditional support.
That's really amazing. That's so amazing. So was it a big transformation or was it a gradual process from going from National Geographic and etc. to coaching, or was it just as long as it took you to kind of learn the practices and etc.?
Yeah. That's a good question, because I noticed you actually mentioned in my intro that I am a former National Geographic photographer, but I do still photograph. And
I'm so glad.
yeah,
I don't know what soul told me that.
no, it's okay. It makes sense because it seems like that's how the story normally goes, right? Is like you leave the
And
thing
then you
behind
never
and
go
then you
back to
start
it
something
again.
new. Right, right. And I think a lot of people would have understood if I did that, given, how messed up I was after the
Yeah.
Nat Geo cover. But I took about a year and a half break from photographing because I needed to figure out who the hell I was without a camera in my hands, because I didn't even know. It was my
Yeah.
whole life. And I stepped back for about a year and a half and really started paying attention to, like, okay, what actually lights me up? Like, what do I actually like other than just taking pictures? And I learned a lot about myself during that time. And I learned a lot about what motivates me and what I want to do next. And then I started taking assignments again. And I now am back in photography, but in a very different way. It's not about how is this assignment going to look on my resume? Like, is it going to get me connected with the right people? It's, does this story light me up? Am I going to be excited to get up every day for 2 weeks and go out into this forest and photograph it? And if it's a no, then I say no. And that's not something I would have done before. I would have been like, I can't say no to an opportunity. There will never be another opportunity again if I say no. But
It's
now
a much healthier place.
yeah, so much healthier. I have a much stronger connection with my own intuition and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And I'm able to say no when it doesn't feel good in a way that I wasn't before. So I do still photograph, and I'm actually starting a speaking tour in December with National Geographic Live, which is their sort of on-stage program.
Wow.
So I'm doing that as well as coaching, and I also work for a land trust here in South Carolina doing wetland conservation. So I have many, many different things going on at once, which is kind of how my life has always been, and I secretly love it that way.
I think that's so good. Do you feel like the camera was like your security blanket? So you had to, step away from the camera to kind of self-examine what you look like without the camera. Because to be honest, you were going so mad at, life. You was doing so well, you were young, you were achieving, and you hadn't found that sense of yourself yet. So you was gonna burn out eventually, maybe, and you've managed to step back, reevaluate, but you still managed to go back and enjoy it too. So it's probably a godsend that that happened. Otherwise, you could have carried on and then burnt out and started to hate the camera forever.
Yeah, exactly. And I have people come into my coaching spaces and they're creatives of one kind or another. And they say something like, I'm living my dream life. This is everything I ever wanted, but I can't find it in me to pick up my camera anymore. I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
getting up in the morning to go on assignment. It's just like this heavy weight every day.
You resent it
And
like an albatross around your neck.
exactly, exactly. And that comes from which fuel you're running on. Is it validation? And when it's validation chasing, you burn out really fast.
Mm. Yeah, I think the validation, you'll burn out faster. You need to work from something like self-fulfillment. And I feel like you're getting your fulfillment from lots of different sources now, and not just that one thing. What and now if you fall out of love with coaching, you know it's not the end. We pivot. And this is something that can happen where before, you thought, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Is But now you know that you don't life's not linear.
Mm.
Life will never
Yeah.
be linear, and we learn a lot from nature. You've learned a lot from nature, and there's a lot of things that aren't linear in the world.
Mm.
And our sense of self isn't always going to be linear. Just like when I asked you that question, who's Jen, I'm starting to understand that it's a hard question because it's different on any given day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that. Do you still get to travel as frequently?
I travel still, but less than before. I find it really hard nowadays to get on an airplane. It's not as fun as it used to be.
Yeah. I think
So,
was you like you was going on adrenaline and everything. I think you know what, when you get older, and I'm not saying we're old, but we're older than we were. I think when you get older, just everything, I can't believe how much everything's changed for me, my perspective. Things I used to be so totally comfortable with, I can't mask and be happy with them anymore. I'm just it's everything changes,
mm,
everything becomes different. And I guess the camera was your kind of your mask for a long time, and then having to find yourself without the camera
mhm,
is a whole new life. And then everyone else having to get used to you without the camera, it's your choice, sod everyone else, but still,
mm.
it's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And I listened to your solo episode about unmasking, and a lot of it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking a lot lately too about the idea of the midlife crisis. And, it has all of this baggage attached to the phrase. But the more that I think about it and the more that I experience it and the more that I witness it in my clients, the more that I realize that it's really just an unmasking. That's what's happening in a midlife crisis.
Do you know what? I never looked at it that I never. Do you know what? When I hear the word midlife crisis, I think of the American films from when I was a kid, and the guy that
Yeah.
goes out and he buys a car, and he's driving past the young women and he takes his ring off, and that's how I picture it. But
Mhm.
actually, what you've said makes much more sense, because I have had maybe a midlife crisis. Sometimes I feel an epiphany, an awakening, and I guess that was when I started unmasking and being my authentic self. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the incredible thing about it is that it's such a normal part of the human experience, and we make people feel ashamed of it. But it's been going on since the dawn of humanity. You can find it in old stories of, heroes who suddenly in the middle of their life decide they need to go on a huge journey. Or Carl Jung, for example, was writing 100 years ago that a life is, consists of two phases. The morning is where you learn to build a self that fits into society, that can get a job, that can hold down a relationship. And then the afternoon is has a completely different set of rules, and you can't play by the same rules as the morning. And that part he called individuation. The afternoon is about finding out who you actually are behind all of the tools that you use to get through the morning of your life.
I've read that before, and it's one of my favorite things. I think all of these things start to make sense when after the midlife crisis, you
Mm-hmm.
know, everything starts to make sense. I read a lot of what are they called? I can't remember what they're called. Like they're that's going to drive me crazy, but they're like a lot of little small phrases that make sense. A lot of Buddhist teachers write them
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Mantras?
Pardon?
Mantras?
No, not mantras. They're like I can't explain them, but they are, I think after like my it's gonna drive me nuts. um but after my kind of awakening, it everything kind of resonated with me that was poetic like that.
Mm. Yeah. And it's funny that it happens that way because it's like, why didn't I just know this when I was 20 years old? But it doesn't work that way. You can't tell
Yeah.
a 20-year-old, and I'm sure many people tried to tell me, but you can't tell a 20-year-old that this is actually the way that things are because we're in our tunnel, we're on our mission, we're on our path, and we can't see it differently, and that's just the way it has to be.
And I
Life
think that's
unfolds this way.
maybe that's the beauty of it, because I
Mm.
was talking to someone earlier and I was like, I wish with my children they will learn from my mistakes so they don't have to go through this hardship to find ease. But actually, maybe without all the hardship, there wouldn't be the ease. And maybe that's what makes it so beautiful.
Yeah.
Now I can, and I say this a lot. If I look at a rose now and smell a rose in the garden, I'll run across the street to smell a rose if I see a beautiful rose, and sometimes it makes me want to cry.
Mm.
Like the same thing with nature and animals, and I feel like, do you know what? If I didn't have all of that hardship, I maybe wouldn't see the beauty in absolutely everything,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why what life is written that way. So maybe if everything was perfect and we got it all right from scratch, it would be a totally different story.
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And the amazing thing is that I think that as we expand our capacity to hold space for and understand suffering, our capacity to hold joy also expands.
Yeah, I agree. So where do you think you'll be 5 years from now, or do you think you'll carry on just evolving? I think, has this taught you that nothing's linear, and you can't make a 5 year plan, because that's the beauty of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I don't know. I don't know. And that used to scare me, that uncertainty. And now it excites me that I won't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow or a month from now or a year from now. It means that there are so many possible new adventures to be had.
I suppose you had a lot of responsibility quite young, traveling and
Mm.
being, this is a major thing, the National Geographic, and, being paid to travel and do all these amazing things and spend time with hyenas. That's a lot of responsibility for someone young on your shoulders. From jump, you've been having to focus, and now you can relax.
Yeah, exactly. I was definitely hyper independent, hyper focused on the goal, constantly focused on hustling. And now I live in this beautiful home with my partner and his 5-year-old son. And I get to get up and spend an hour working in the garden every morning. And that is my ideal day, just being able to take it slow, see what comes, and flow with whatever is here in the present moment.
Do you feel like you've learned a lot from nature and traveling specifically? Did you travel all around Africa, or was it mostly Kenya and etc.?
I worked in a number of countries in Africa, throughout Southern Africa and East Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, did that and nature and that teach you a lot about life?
It did. I see so many incredible metaphors in nature. I feel like I'm learning lessons from it all the time. One of my favorite recent examples is I have this house plant, and it's a Japanese spotted laurel. And I bought it from, the bargain shelf at the store because it was sick. And it didn't grow for a really long time. It just had these two branches that had buds on the end of them, but the buds never did anything, and it didn't grow for like 6 months. And then suddenly I looked at it one morning and it was growing a brand new shoot from the base. And I started doing some research on this, and it's a thing called the root response. So it's basically when a plant realizes that one of its branches is damaged, or it's not going to go anywhere, or it's too old, it will go dormant for a while and then gather all its energy down at the bottom and then sprout out a new shoot, a new branch. And when I read that, my mind was blown because I related to it personally so much.
It's you, isn't it?
Wow, it's me. This spotted laurel is me.
Where is it now?
It's over in the other room in the front room.
I hope you looked after it well.
Yeah. It's doing really, it actually sprouted.
Affinity.
Yeah, it sprouted 2 more after that. So now it's got like 5 branches. It's super happy.
That's so cute. I remembered the word. The word is aphorisms. I don't know if you know what aphorisms are, but aphorisms are my thing. You should go and read some. They're so beautiful. They're honestly so beautiful. But is there? I could have asked you so many things, because you can take your conversation in so many directions. I can ask you about coaching. I can ask you about National Geographic. I mostly wanted to ask you about hyenas, but I try to hold off so much. But honestly, I find you've been lucky. You've had beautiful opportunities, and you've been lucky that them opportunities led you to that kind of thing where you discovered yourself, and that was even luckier than all of the opportunities that you had put together. And look where you are now. You wake up and you go in the garden and you've got your stepson, and you wouldn't be there if all of them beautiful things didn't happen. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a place that I've come to through a lot of hard work, is realizing that everything is perfect and all of the painful moments are here to teach me something. And I come out on the other side of the fire an evolved version of myself.
Or an extra shoot from the bottom.
Yeah, an extra shoot from the bottom. Exactly. And for that reason, I am grateful, so grateful for all of the horrible things that have happened. The, toxic relationship that I was in at the same time that my Nat Geo cover was published, that contributed to me really hitting rock bottom, because
I'm blaming him now.
Yeah. I'm grateful for him. I wasn't for a long time, but I am now so grateful, because I'm not sure that if I hadn't hit rock bottom that I would have made all the changes that I did. And I think that's the thing that keeps people stuck for so long, is things are good enough. They're good enough that you can kind of just keep going in this life that maybe doesn't feel all that satisfying or doesn't feel all that expansive, but it could be worse. So you just kind of stay in that place forever.
I think that happens to a lot of people when they get older. And, I think even my dad, I've spoke about it with him. He's nearly 80. And, what happens when you get to nearly 80, and then, I'm not saying that this is what happened to my dad, but we were just talking about the other day, what happens when you get to nearly 80 and you realize, shit, I stayed in that life because it was just ticking along. But actually, an 80s, you can't there's not much you can do after. You can't go and start a new life again. But I do think that that is what happens. A lot of people make that realization much later in life, and they're like, oh my God, I just went along with this happy life, stayed in this happy marriage because it was okay, but it was never what was ultimately going to make me happy. And I feel like I haven't reached my full destiny, and now it's too late.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There are so many people who go through life like that. And that's part of the reason that I became a coach, was because I wanted to help as many people as possible actually find alignment and find true joy and freedom in their lives, because I'm on the other side of that, and it's better than I ever could have imagined.
Do you think it's possible for anyone, I mean, to find that true alignment and that true happiness? Do you think that anyone can find that? No, I think you can. You know, I've had some horrific times, and do you think anyone can find that pure alignment?
I do really actually believe that. And I think that for some people, it might take longer, right? If you're very embedded in a life that is making you miserable, it might take you time to find the courage, the resources, the support to make the changes that you need to make. But I do believe that with the right support, anyone can find it.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to be in the right place, in the right surroundings. I mean, I was in some awful relationships. For some reason, I attracted awful relationships. And, you know, and I kept trying to say to myself, why won't my life fix itself? And it didn't fix itself because I was in these horrible relationships, and it never would have fixed in that situation. Sometimes you have to step away from the wood to see the trees and do that self-exploration, and that's when all the good stuff falls into place. When you stop covering the hole inside yourself with something else, that's when you find out that the hole's there and what you have to do to fill it.
That's exactly it. The first step is getting really honest with yourself, and that can be really hard.
It is hard. Your house is beautiful. Do you know what? If someone said, "What does a house look like?" with someone that was artsy and National Geographic-y, I would have said, "It looks like this house."
No, thank you.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
So where can people find you? I know where to find you. I know people can search for you, but if people see you on my page and say, I want to hear more from her, I want to look at the National Geographic tour, I want to look into the coaching, where's your best platform?
I use Instagram and LinkedIn the most. I have my coaching account, which is Wild Beyond Coaching on Instagram, and the website is wildbeyondcoaching.com. And then my photography work is on Instagram at Jen Guyton, all one word.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What is your second favorite animal after hyenas?
Pangolins.
Huh?
Pangolin. Have you ever heard of a pangolin?
No.
Oh my goodness. They're amazing.
Are they like penguins?
No, not at all. They're mammals. What? They're incredible.
Have they got a long nose?
Yes, they're anteater type animals that have
scales. I do know.
They look like little dragons.
Yeah, I have seen them once.
And they're the only mammal that has scales, and they're unfortunately heavily trafficked. They're actually thought to be the most trafficked mammal, even more than elephants or rhinos, because their scales are used in Asian medicine. But they're really fascinating, and they're very cute, so I highly recommend.
But yet we don't hear about them very much.
No.
Yeah. See, my second favorite is very in keeping with the hyenas. It's a dingo.
A dingo. I love that.
I think I'm noticing a theme.
Yeah.
The dingo, the hyena. Yeah. I'm a fixer in relationships. I like to fix broken people, specifically men in my past. So maybe that says something about like, oh, you know, poor hyena, poor dingo. Like it needs some love as well. But honestly, thank you so much for joining me. It's
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous. And I have one last question. Do
Mm.
you have a book in you? Is there a book? Is there even a photography book? Is there one?
I have some ideas for books. Yes. Not photography books, but
Ah,
books about living differently. That's all I'll say right now.
do you know what I really appreciate you is, so before we spoke about how the interview was going to go, and you told me that you like to think and process, and I see that you have a very calming aura.
Mm.
Has it always been like that?
No.
No way.
No, this is something I worked on. I used to always just be in my head, like spinning out nonstop, you know?
Yeah.
And once I learned how to actually be present in the moment, it changed everything. I feel so much more relaxed.
That's amazing. Honestly, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to my listeners, and then, so don't put the phone down yet because I don't want to lose any footage. But I will be back.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, guys, for listening. Thank you.